Welcome everybody to a look at a brand new StudioCanal release on 4K no less, and it is 1973's The Wicker Man. Yeah, fantastic horror film. Just get that right at the gate. Easily one of my favourites from the 70s. This was also a double bill alongside Don't Look Now when it was originally released, which is my favourite horror film of the 70s and generally. Yeah, nice to finally have this on 4K alongside that film, which StudioCanal also gave a 4K release. So this is directed by Robin Hardy, who I've not seen anything else from before, and in fact he only really directed one other film, and that was a sequel to this decades later, and I've not heard anything really good about it, so I've never bothered to actually bother with that film. So yeah, this is a folk horror film, so not just a horror film, but you're going to got folk elements to it as well, and depending on the version that you watch, it's between 88 minutes and 101 minutes. This version features all three different versions on 4K, and it stars Edward Woodward, who I've not seen a great deal from in terms of his more older period. The only two that I've seen from the likes of the 70s, for instance, are The Appointment and Hunted. But I've also seen him in Hot Fuzz, as I didn't realise until actually researching this film that he was actually in that film, so it's a nice surprise to see him in that. And then it also stars Christopher Lee, who I've seen in at least 39 films, including this. So yeah, he's been in everything from low-key, horror films to big-budget sci-fi films and everything else in between, pretty much. Yeah, I find it hard to believe that anyone out there who is into film hasn't seen at least one film featuring him. Also stars Britt Ekland, who was in The Man with the Golden Gun alongside Christopher Lee, as well as Get Carter, Asylum, The Monster Club, and Endless Night. So she's been in plenty of horror films herself. So it's about Police Sergeant Neil Howie, who is called to an island village in search of a missing girl whom the locals claim never existed. Stranger still, however, are the rituals that take place there. So yeah, this is overall a horror film that manages to be extremely effective without the need to be scary in the traditional sense or have excessive gore, while still managing to build atmosphere and a genuine sense of mounting dread. Couple that with the fact it has a mystery at the heart of its plot, and you have an engrossing film that is aided further by a solid cast, pacing that is slow and methodical but doesn't become wearisome, which means that you can basically savour the film because it's not, it's not rushing ahead, it's not got these big plot points constantly coming at you. You just savour this film. You can, get enveloped into this whole, community that it takes place in. It successfully manages to immerse you into the culture and the religion of the island of Summer Isle. The original music and score is used really well while being great in its own right. And the ending is iconic but also quite frightening in its realism. Yeah, an amazing film. I do personally prefer Don't Look Now, like I said, which is from the same year as this. Like I said, it was released as a double bill in some areas of the world. And yeah, they're also kind of similar in some regards, especially in terms of the mounting dread and the kind of like mystery element to it as well. And also taking a character or characters and taking them into a completely different environment. Donald Sutherland, Julie Christie go to Venice. Edward Woodward goes to Summer Isle. Yeah, kind of related in that regard. But yeah, this is a fantastic box going on with it. It's absolutely gigantic. Far bigger than the other StudioCanal releases that have had a 4K release. We've had the likes of Highlander, Don't Look Now itself, like I said, Basic Instinct, The Third Man, Total Recall. So a lot of classic films, but yeah, this is easily one of the better ones. And yeah, it's also got a really rather nice pop-up arrangement to it. In terms of the physical aspect, this is definitely probably my favourite of the bunch that StudioCanal released. So there you've got a quote from the film. It's a little pop-up here, and yeah, really nice use of colours on it and everything. I really do love the colour palette of this release. It's also got a magnetic, which you can probably hear. It's magnetic, so you're not going to worry about everything in this falling out. The discs itself, well, like I said, there's three different versions of the film. We have the final cut, the director's cut, and the theatrical cut, all three of which are on 4K. You also have the Blu-ray versions of all three films as well. And you also have a soundtrack as well with the songs, which I think have been redone by KTJ, Pearson and friends. Yeah, it's not the original songs per se, but they are the songs at least, in spirit. So there you go. The 4K ones are here, Blu-ray here, and the soundtrack at the end. Yeah, 5 discs is hardly something to complain about, quite frankly. And yeah, those discs are crammed full of extras, which we'll get to, but physical extras first. So we have some free art cards, which are really rather nicely done. So some mild spoilers for the film if you've not seen it already, but you know, it's a 50-year-old film now, so I imagine most people have seen it. And then a little like kind of postcard kind of one there. And again, another kind of postcard thing, but with a quite a bit of a nice line there. They'll never let you leave, which some regards might not sound ominous, but if you know the subject of this film, then yeah, it's quite an ominous tagline. Then you get a couple of posters, which are pretty small, but I like small ones sometimes because, you know, it's all very well and good having these big gigantic ones, but you know, these smaller ones means you can get more on your walls. So more of an original poster there, which is kind of like simplistic and you know, doesn't tell you a great deal, but that haunting image of the Wicker Man itself is pretty much easy enough to sell it for me, and I like the colour scheme of that as well. And then you get one more akin to the new artwork that has been used for this release as well, which is something that they did also for Don't Look Now for its 45th anniversary, I think that was for. Yeah, really nice colours on it. Yeah, it looks great, to be honest. Personally, the only issue I have is the fact that the 50th anniversary bit at the bottom is really going to kind of date the poster itself. But yeah, aside from that, really, really nicely done. Really nice thick paper as well, so they're not going to be ones that kind of rip easily. And you also get a booklet as well. Again, nice use of colours. That's the rear. So yeah, inside this, you have the cast, the technical credits. Then you also have an introduction by Justin Hardy and Dominic Hardy. I imagine they're the sons of Robin Hardy. Not something I've really researched, but then you've also got behind the scenes shots as well, which again are always interesting to see. There they are setting up the titular Wicker Man there. I imagine they needed to get that shot in bang on right first time because I doubt it was a cheap thing to build. And there you go, you got Britt Eklund there. More shots from the film. Then we've got, what's this? Then we've got write-ups about the cast. So yeah, you got Christopher Lee there talked about, Ingrid Pitt. And you got more shots from the film. Then you got the soundtrack there, the track listing. So yeah, I've not listened to the soundtrack yet, outside of obviously the film. Not sure who all those are. Maybe people from the band, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's just a little bit of an interesting booklet that. Not the most in-depth one. You know how we've had plenty of booklets and limited edition releases that have, you know, huge write-ups and the like. The new Cycle collection, which I've also recently just got, has a massive booklet. It's more than 100 pages and the like. So yeah, not massive in that regard, but we do have a whole host of extras, as you can see on the back of this. So disc 1, we have the final cut. We have the new revisiting the locations of the Wicker Man, new The Wicker Man at 50, new Robin Hardy script, The Lost Ending, new Britt Eklund interview, new trailer from 2023, plus some older extras like Worshipping the Wicker Man, the music of Wicker Man, interview with Robin Hardy from 2013, interview with Robin Hardy and Christopher Lee from 1979, behind the scenes still gallery, Burnt Offering, The Cult of the Wicker Man, and The Wicker Man Enigma. Then on the second disc we have the future of the director's cut and the future of the theatrical cut. And then we have more older extras, audio commentary with Robin Hardy, Christopher Lee and Edward Woodward, and making of the commentary. And on the disc itself you just got the EP of these songs that are featured. So yeah, I think I've only seen the final cut, which clocks in at 94 minutes long, theatrical cut clocks in at 88 minutes long, and the director's cut clocks in at 101 minutes long. So not sure what those extra 7 minutes give the film, and who knows, maybe other elements are changed and swapped out and the like. So yeah, but I definitely look forward to watching the director's cut. But like I said, I've only ever seen the final cut. I think that might have been because I heard somewhere that it was the better of the three versions, but still, I will look forward to seeing the director's cut at least. So yeah, if I not get round to finally watching the theatrical cut, which I don't think I've ever seen. It might have been on TV at some point and I've dipped in and out of it, but I don't think I've ever seen the full version of the theatrical cut. So yeah, still, fantastic release, and they even advertised something that I find really rather quite cute, a Wicker Man candle store, which has all sorts of, you know, props and the like. Some props from the film, some other props from other films, I believe, or and the like. So yeah, not cheap. I think the full version of this is like 50 quid, but there's a wee Wicker Man, as they call it, which is only like 13 or something. So nice little bit of a memorabilia that you can get there as well. So yeah, superb film, 4.5 out of 5. I think the only reason I've given it half a star under is maybe not sure why, maybe, to be honest. But yeah, 4.5 out of 5 is still a high score. It's only half a star less than Don't Look Now, and I think Don't Look Now gets more weight behind it just because of the nostalgia, because that is one of my first horror films that I ever watched, and it's one of the first horror films that I truly loved. So yeah, whereas I believe I saw this a lot later in life. So yeah, that's just the way it goes sometimes. It always usually depends on when you watch a film whether or not it becomes your favourite or not, I believe. So yeah, but still, great number of physical extras, great new extras on the discs. It's really nice that they put all 3 versions on 4K rather than just doing, say, the theatrical cut on 4K and then the other 2 versions were just on Blu-ray, because I think we've already had at least 2 or 3 other versions on Blu-ray already. I know Imprint released a version with all 3 versions on Blu-ray earlier this year or last year. So yeah, glad I didn't buy that version because it was quite expensive. So yeah, and this was hardly cheap either. It was £60, which is obviously quite a lot. Really don't expect, you know, normal, you know, people that are casual collectors to fork out that kind of money. But if you're a big fan of this film like I am, if you're into collecting your films, then yeah, hopefully you've gotten around to getting this, or you will eventually. But yeah, still, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it if you've seen this film before. But if you haven't and you're into your horror films, I do highly recommend it. But nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.